Hey guys, what's up? This is Gerald, and in today's video, we are going to talk about two very useful functions in Microsoft Excel and in Google Sheets. These are the count and count A functions. So if you've ever needed to quickly count your data, especially if you're dealing with a larger data set, these two are going to make your life a lot easier, and it's going to save you a ton of time as well. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm gonna keep this simple and straightforward to you. First, I'm gonna show you how to use the count and count A functions in Microsoft Excel. And then we'll do the same thing in Google Sheets so you can see how similar they are. Let's start with Excel and begin with the count. Okay, so here's my data set, and I have a mix of values, text, some numbers, text with numbers, and I've added a period on here too. And let me add a space. So it may not seem to contain any, but it has a space character on it. So that would be our data set from cell A1 to cell A11. Now, if I use the count formula on this range, so that's going to be our syntax right there. Start with an equal sign, and then the function name, in this case count. And then our data range enclosed in parentheses would be from cell A1 to cell A11. We can just press the tab button right away, or we can type in the close parentheses and then hit on enter. Okay, so it came up with 2 as a result, because what the count does is that it actually is going to compute all those cells that contains purely numbers only. All right, so again, it's going to count all those cells that contains numbers only. That's why it's showing up 2 in our data set, because we only have 2 cells on here that contain purely numbers, cell 6 and cell A6 and cell A7. All right, now let's move on to the count A function. So same syntax. Let's start with the equal sign and then followed by the function name, in this case count A. Then we are going to be using the same data range. Okay, and again, you can hit on tab or close it with the closing parentheses and then hit on enter. And as you can see, it came up with 11 as the result, because what it does this time, what the count A does is that it's going to count anything that's not empty. So our data range is from A1 to A11, although cell A11 may not seem to contain anything because we just added a space on it, but space is a character, and thus Excel computes it as a non-empty cell. And that's why it's showing 11 as a result. So that's what the count A function does. Now, since you've seen it in Excel, let's try doing the same thing in the Google Sheets. Here we have the same data set, cell A1 to cell, I'm not sure if I've added space on here, but let me do so. Let me add a space on cell A11. And let's see if it's actually gonna produce the same results. So let's start with the count function. Then let's select cell A1 to cell A11. Okay, it came up with 2 as a result. Same with Microsoft Excel. So it again computes those cells that would contain only numbers. Okay, so in our data set, cell A6 and cell A7 contains purely numbers, and that's why it's showing 2 as a result. Now let's move on to the count A function, and we are going to be using the same data range, cell A1 to cell A11. Let's see if it's going to come up with the same result. And it did. It showed up with 11 as a result. Same explanation. It's going to count all those cells that are not empty. All right. So regardless if it's in Microsoft Excel or in Google Sheets, once you use these functions, it's going to come up with the same results. Okay, and I wanted to, just a recap, use count if you want to count numbers only, and use count A if you want to count all non-empty cells. And that's it. Simple but really useful functions that you can use all the time. And if you found this helpful, please don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well for more tutorials, more videos, and comment down below for your suggestions, recommendations, feedbacks, or any comments or any questions you have. Let me know and I'll be sure to be reading those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.